December 9, 2017. Russia-China shaken to very core as Trump moves in for deep state kill shot. A fearfully worded new Security Council SC report circulating in the Kremlin today reveals that President Putin and Zhang Youxia, vice chairman of China's Central Military Commission (CMC), were shaken to their very core. Exact phrase during their meeting on Thursday, 8 November, after receiving confirmation that President Donald Trump was moving in for a kill shot against his shadow government deep state enemies by his unleashing over 2,400 auditors to conduct the first ever in history audit of the Pentagon's over $2.4 trillion in assets, with the last time this ever came close to happening being on September 10, 2001, but that was swiftly followed 24 hours later when, on September 11, 2001, America was brutally attacked. According to this report, on September 10, 2001, the longtime Republican Party apparatchik official in a large political organization Donald Rumsfeld suddenly, and without warning, held one of his first press conferences since his being sworn into office as the President George W. Bush regime's Secretary of Defense, and wherein he declared war on the Pentagon after his discovering $2.3 trillion was missing and unaccounted for. As one of the rare President Richard Nixon regime officials who remained unscathed by the Watergate scandal, this report details, Secretary Rumsfeld had achieved an unblemished reputation for his open honesty, and who prior to being appointed to lead the Pentagon, in 2001, by President Bush, had served as the Secretary of Defense for the President Gerald Ford regime, as well as his being President Ford's White House Chief of Staff and his, also, having served as the U.S. Ambassador to NATO. Less than 24 hours after Secretary Rumsfeld declared war on the Pentagon in order to discover what had happened to the missing $2.3 trillion, though, this report notes, the United States, including the Pentagon itself, was attacked on September 11, 2001, with the most accurate description of what had occurred being published by the globally recognized architects and engineers for 9/11 Truth nonprofit organization made up of America's top building experts, and who wrote, on September 11, 2001, the three worst structural failures in modern history took place when World Trade Center buildings 1, 2, and 7 suffered complete and rapid destruction. In the aftermath of the tragedy, most members of the architecture and engineering community, as well as the general public, assumed that the building's destruction had occurred as a result of the airplane impacts and fires. This view was reinforced by subsequent federal investigations, culminating in FEMA's 2002 building performance study and in the 2005 and 2008 reports by the National Institute of Standards and Technology (NIST). Since 9/11, however, independent researchers around the world have assembled a large body of evidence that overwhelmingly refutes the notion that airplane impacts and fires caused the destruction of the Twin Towers and WTC-7. This body of evidence, most of which FEMA and NIST omitted from their reports, instead supports the troubling conclusion that all 3 skyscrapers were destroyed in a process known as controlled demolition, where explosives and/or other devices are used to bring down a building. In the aftermath of the September 11, 2001 attacks upon the World Trade Center and Pentagon, this report continues, America was plunged into war in both Afghanistan and Iraq, diverting Secretary Rumsfeld from being able to discover what had happened to the missing $2.3 trillion, but that by late 2005 he began to reinvestigate, but with his suddenly being attacked, in early 2006, by what is now called the Generals' Revolt, but which was, in fact, a deep state plot to throw him out of office, and which President Bush did on the day after the 2006 U.S. congressional elections that put the Democratic Party in power. In early 2016, this report details, Donald Trump stunningly told a campaign rally in South Carolina that if he was elected you will find out who really knocked the World Trade Center, and that caused Secretary Rumsfeld to openly break with all former Bush regime and deep state-aligned establishment Republican Party officials and openly declare that he was clearly voting for Trump, and since Trump won the presidency, has led Rumsfeld to praise Trump's steel-clad leadership and state that the U.S. was better off today than if we had Hillary. Secretary Rumsfeld's joining forces with President Trump, this report explains, has profound consequences for the deep state, as this alliance has now provided the roadmap to deliver a kill shot to this shadow government by destroying its secret funding apparatus, and comes in the form of the at least 2,400 auditors Trump has just unleashed upon the Pentagon to conduct the first ever in history audit of this mammoth war-making machine, with the Pentagon's only purpose lately being its ability to orchestrate hostility toward Russia, China, Iran, and North Korea in order to protect its $1 trillion annual budget by convincing the American public that the U.S. is threatened by enemies. This report further notes that as President Trump delivers this kill shot to the deep state, his other attacks upon this nefarious shadow government apparatus have become pure Machiavellianism, which is a word commonly used to describe the employment of cunning and duplicity in statecraft. As one example of President Trump's use of cunning and duplicity against his deep state enemies, this report explains, were his video-recorded remarks made this past January, wherein he stated that one had to assume that all hotels had secret cameras installed in their rooms, and that SC intelligence analysts note that he is an expert in knowing about, as it has long been known that all of Trump's hotels and resorts, especially in the U.S., have long secretly audio and video recorded the predatory sexual lives of all of America's top elites. Prior to taking power, though, this report continues, the secret recordings Trump made of America's debauched elites often found their way to one of his closest friends named David Becker, who is the chairman and CEO of American Media, of whose many publications include the tabloid newspapers National Examiner, Star, and most importantly the National Enquirer, all of whom paid Trump for his celebrity tips and who, in return, protected Trump's carefully honed image. Upon taking power, however, this report details, President Trump created his own secret spy network that began to weaponize these decades of secret audio and video recordings against his deep state enemies, and that has led to the unprecedented takedown of numerous high-profile elite Hollywood actors, producers, directors, now too many to count, top U.S. propaganda mainstream media anchors and reporters, and now has the U.S. Congress reeling from sexual harassment deluge, with Trump's latest deep state target being the powerful Democratic Party Congressman Alcee Hastings, who it was just revealed secretly used $220,000 from the U.S. Treasury to pay for his sexual crimes. An even greater example of President Trump's use of cunning and duplicity against his deep state enemies, this report continues, can be seen the so-called Russiagate probe, and that National Security Agency NSA legend William Binney correctly surmised about by his stating if Russiagate were real and not an orchestrated hoax, the NSA would have all the evidence, making Special Prosecutor Robert Mueller's investigation completely pointless. Going from mere Machiavellianism against his deep state enemies peddling the Russiagate fiction, though, this report details, President Trump has gone full Kafkaesque against all of these shadow government liars, and is the word commonly used to describe situations and or circumstances having a nightmarishly complex, bizarre, or illogical quality about them. And in one of the main examples of President Trump using a nightmarishly complex, bizarre and illogical scheme to destroy his deep state enemies, foisting these Russiagate lies upon the American people, this report explains, began on 16 May when he met with former FBI Director, and longtime Republican Party apparatchik, Robert Mueller, who the day after this secret meeting, on 17 May, was appointed as special counsel to investigate Russiagate, but who then packed his investigative team with Democratic Party loyalists to Hillary Clinton and former President Barack Obama. As to why special counsel Mueller stacked the deck against President Trump by surrounding himself with Clinton-Obama loyalist U.S. Department of Justice prosecutors and FBI agents, this report continues, was to centralize them in a location away from the main headquarters of the U.S. Justice Department and FBI, and where the most important criminal investigation in American history had been started by the Office of Inspector General look into the crimes of Hillary Clinton, and that current FBI Director Christopher Wray warned this week could very well reopen the entire case against her. And while the Office of Inspector General has been quietly going about gathering their evidence against Hillary Clinton, this report notes, Special Counsel Mueller has, likewise, been quietly investigating all of the Clinton-Obama loyalist U.S. Department of Justice prosecutors and FBI agents he had gathered around himself, none of whom knew at least at the start that they were all being investigated for violating a U.S. federal law that states no employee may use his official authority or influence to interfere with or affect the result of an election. To the Clinton-Obama loyalists entrapped by Special Counsel Mueller, so far, this report details, they include FBI counterterrorism chief Peter Strzok and his adulterous mistress, and FBI lawyer, Lisa Page, senior Department of Justice official Bruce Orr, and U.S. Department of Justice lawyer Jeannie Rhee, who was discovered to have worked for top Obama aide Ben Rhodes as well as the Clinton Foundation, the discovery of all of whom, also, led Fox News legal expert Greg Jarrett to grimly warn this past week that the FBI has now become America's secret police. To the American people being allowed to know Special Counsel Mueller's true goal of finding and destroying these deep state operatives against President Trump, this report says, is not to be seen as their nation's propaganda. Mainstream media still refuses to tell them the truth with all of these people, instead, being fed continuous lies of triumph, celebrating 2 guilty pleas for lying to the FBI and 2 indictments of close Trump associates, the crown jewel of which is former National Security Advisor General Michael Flynn having pled guilty to lying to the FBI, but whose only evidence for having done so being based on an ambush interview Flynn was tricked into doing by the now disgraced anti-Trump FBI agent Peter Strzok. The main problem in celebrating these guilty pleas and indictments, though, this report details, is that they were all dead on arrival the moment they were filed with a U.S. federal court, and that was belatedly realized by Obama regime-appointed U.S. District Judge Rudolph Contreras, who had accepted General Flynn's guilty plea but who afterwards speedily recused himself from the case in his knowing that Special Counsel Mueller was targeting him, too, for being the FISA judge who approved the wiretapping of Trump's campaign on fabricated evidence given to him by FBI agent Peter Strzok. As to everything presented to the U.S. federal court against Trump associates by Special Counsel Mueller being dead on arrival, this report continues, American legal experts are noting that it would expose the United States' vaunted legal system to both national and international ridicule should these cases continue, and as recently explained by the noted former award-winning U.S. federal prosecutor Nick James, and who stated, under federal law, a prosecutor is required to disclose exculpatory and impeachment information to criminal defendants and to seek a just result in every case. Specifically, pursuant to Giglio v. United States, prosecutors are obligated to provide defendants with impeachment evidence, which includes, according to the DOJ's guidelines, evidence of a witness's biases, animosity toward defendant, or animosity toward a group of which the defendant is a member or with which the defendant is affiliated. As a result, in any prosecution brought by Mueller against a Republican target, defense counsel would be entitled under the Constitution to all evidence in the government's possession relevant to exploring the apparent biases of FBI agent Peter Strzok and his animosity toward Trump and the Republican Party. This, in and of itself, could be a case killer because it is very unlikely that Mueller or the DOJ would want defense counsel poring through all the records and documents, emails, and texts in the DOJ's and Strzok's possession revealing the agent's biases, since this could fatally undermine any other cases or investigations the agent has worked on, such as the FBI's decision to recommend charging General Flynn with lying to federal agents even though Hillary Clinton's besties, Cheryl Mills and Huma Abedin, were given a free pass despite apparently doing the same thing. Significantly, The fatal damage done to Mueller's anti-Trump investigation does not only rest in the fact that defense counsel will be able to conduct an unlubricated prostate examination on the FBI's key agent at trial. Instead, the real reason why Mueller will not risk a criminal trial is the lasting damage that would be done to the FBI's reputation by having Strzok's baggage brought into the daylight. To expose the agent's biases, defense counsel would have the opportunity to cross-examine the agent and his apparent mistress, an FBI lawyer who also worked on Mueller's investigation and the Clinton email probe, about their exchanged messages showing support for Clinton and hostility to Trump. Additionally, the agent's wife, a high-profile attorney at another federal agency, apparently was a member of several pro-Obama and pro-Clinton Facebook groups and is a follower of a Facebook page called We Voted for Hillary. As President Trump continues to run circles around his deep state enemies with his Machiavellianism Kafkaesque schemes, and is now preparing the kill shot against them by destroying their secret Pentagon funding, this report concludes, neither Russia or Chinese intelligence experts are convinced that he can survive the coming 9/11-type false flag attack being planned against him by this American shadow government, thus leading Russia and China to boost their defense cooperation and, should the worst occur, join forces to create a real global gold standard that would destroy the US dollar and hopefully stop World War III.